11th of February,
Yeah.
1858, something happened at the grotto of Massabielle in Lourdes. Our Lady appeared to a child, an unremarkable child, I would say. Even at that time, she didn't have a splendid background, very little knowledge about her catechism. Like, she knew nothing, not nothing, but barely anything. But Our Lady appeared to this girl, the least expected of the society, I would say. And it's something everyone considers divine providence, because this is not something that would happen ordinarily in the life of Saint Bernadette.
Hi everyone, I'm Chidera. Today I am with
Helen.
Yes, and we are in STC, right in front of the statue of Our Lady of Lourdes. So we would like to talk about Our Lady of Lourdes and the encounter that Saint Bernadette of Lourdes had with her, and about the apparition and her sufferings. We'll just give a brief history of her story.
She was born in 1844.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think at the age of 6, she had asthma. And going on through her life, she suffered terribly. She had pneumonia, she had asthma, and she died of tuberculosis. On that very day, the sisters, a friend came and told, okay, let's go get the firewood. So they went. But because Bernadette could not cross the stream, she had to wait. The sisters went, and a lady appeared to her. She never knew the name of the lady. And immediately she saw this lady, she brought out her rosary, because the lady had a rosary around her hand. And Bernadette would pray the rosary, and the lady would be moving her hands through the Holy Rosary.
Okay, so as she's praying,
Yes,
the lady
yes.
is also praying.
Yes, she's going through the beads with Bernadette.
So it's like they are praying together.
It seems like. And Our Lady appeared 18 times. I think from February to July, she appeared 18 times.
Okay.
That apparition, I would say, it had a lot of messages, but there is a particular mystery I would love us to talk about and to highlight. Yes.
All right.
And I think that is the mystery of suffering. Bernadette, I would say, throughout her life, she suffered. I think she's the person I can say, when you say suffering, she understands perfectly.
Because she has experienced it.
She has experienced it in ways that we can't imagine. The family lived in an abandoned prison. Now, the prison was too bad, and they had to move the prisoners. But the family, they could not afford a home, because the mill, where the father used to work, they ran out of money, so he could not fund the place. So they had to move to an abandoned prison.
Right.
Very bad, actually.
It's been very terrible.
Very bad.
Yeah.
And Bernadette, she would go for classes, her catechism classes, and they would ask her questions like, what is the Trinity? At that time, she was 14, so she knew nothing about the Trinity. Now, I believe that this is not even something common at that time, because she was 14. And at that time, I don't know for sure, but I love to imagine that the catechism classes and their normal school learnings are merged together. I'm not sure, I'm guessing. She wasn't doing a good job at that, and they would call her good for nothing.
Okay.
Yes, but she was a very pious young lady. Yes, the family would pray every day. Amidst suffering,
Yeah.
I love the perception that the family had. Usually when I go through suffering, I easily lose sight of God, or I easily blame God for whatever is happening. But as the family moved from hardships to even worse hardships, I think they absorbed it like as Christ would, suffering on account of Christ. They bore it patiently. And so you would find this in the life of Saint Therese. She bore all this suffering and everything. She bore everything on account of our Lord, I would say. During one of the apparitions, I think this was the one that stood out to me. I don't know the one that stood out to you more, but that was the time that Our Lady told her, because people were asking Bernadette for a sign. Many people were coming from other villages, and it caused a lot of problems, the traffic, the everything. And people believed truly that this girl was seeing a vision, because when somebody, I've watched a documentary on Our Lady of Rwanda, Our Lady of Rwanda. When you see these girls, because they wanted to get filmed, they wanted to get it filmed, like Our Lady really is appearing at Kibeho.
Yeah.
So when you see these girls looking at Our Lady, you could see that if you pinch them, they would not move. They would put something in their eyes. Sometimes,
like in a trance.
yes, sometimes their face would glow a little.
Glowing.
Yes, and you would,
Face of Moses.
yes, you could also see this in Bernadette. Like, she was fixed on this
Apparition.
yes, this woman that was appearing to her.
Yeah.
But the one I think exactly that stood out to me was when Our Lady told her to bathe herself in the spring of water.
She used mud to rub on her skin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really got the crowd. They were like, now, this is not true.
I can't imagine being there and just
Exactly.
witness a
Exactly.
child doing that kind of thing.
They said she was out of her mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I'm guessing
Yeah.
that's because she had self-will. Because, sometimes, or the way some people imagine it is that if Our Lady appears to you because of her beauty, you're going to be overwhelmed and do everything she tells you.
Yeah.
But I believed that Bernadette had free will. And seeing that, wow, the place that she's pointing to me is really mud. I don't know if I want to do this. But
maybe she didn't see it as mud. Maybe
exactly,
she
maybe.
saw it as water.
Maybe.
Because
I'm just
she's in
exactly.
a state of trance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm looking from my human mind, my perspective,
Yeah.
and my self-ego too. Would I really want to do what she asks, like what she's asking of me? It's something. Oof.
Yeah.
It's something I would go over again. But Bernadette bathed, like, she used the mud.
She had faith.
She had faith, I would say. And when they started wriggling and they started going, I think a few moments later, water started coming from that place.
Yeah, I can remember in the movie, it was like everybody was already away. Nobody was around the whole area again. So there were only two friends of Saint Bernadette.
And one of them had a blind eye and he was healed.
Yes. So when he saw the water rushing, just used it to clean his eyes.
That water, up to today, it still flows. And it has over 70 medically verified miracles. Now, if you go to Lourdes and you say, I'm healed, it doesn't end there. You would submit your file. Your doctors would submit their file showing that you had a very chronic or very intense disease that no medical intervention could cure.
Yeah.
The 70th miracle was that of a lady named Bernadette.
Really?
Exactly. And it was beautiful for me because it took Bernadette's years to get that spring.
The spring.
It took her ridicule, her life of sanctity, her humility, her suffering to get that fountain that is now, how would I say, a beacon of grace for everybody. Even for us today, because we now have this beautiful grotto here in honor of Our Lady of Lourdes. there are some things I would like us to talk about, like in terms, like to explain how can we put this in our own lives, like this story of suffering of Bernadette, how she went through suffering, everything. How can we put this, put this in our own life? How can we see it? How can we not be depressed when suffering, like reality, the theory of suffering, of Christ dying on the cross, is different from our individual problems. So I'm just asking, how do we see suffering? How can we embrace suffering in the way Bernadette and Our Lady and our Lord did?
Well, I believe that, you see, suffering in itself is, if you look at it in a more secular way, it seems to be futile. It has no importance. It's just a waste of time. But if you look at it from, let's say, heavenly point of view, you see that God uses it to purify us, to make us understand that even though we are in suffering, we are going through difficult times, that He is still with us, And also, like I said earlier, I think suffering makes us understand, appreciate, good things. Like when good things come our way, makes us appreciate life in general. Because someone who doesn't suffer, one who is born into, let's say, into wealth, who has never witnessed or experienced suffering, person would really not understand what it means to maybe to give up one's life for other people.
And I also think that the embrace of suffering in itself, I don't know if it's like the whole embrace of suffering, like just embracing suffering one at a time, is actually the fastest imitation of Christ. Nothing. I don't know. I'm just saying from my perspective. Because when you see our Christ, it's like St. Thomas would say that Christ on the cross had the fullness of virtue. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but Christ on the cross was given, like he was giving himself as much as he could. And I think that is exactly the same thing we do when we suffer. Yeah. Although, obviously, we do not suffer perfectly like Christ. But when we just decide that on account of Christ, I would endure this pain, I would offer it up, I think that is the highest form of charity, both the love of God and the love of neighbor. Because as Catholics and even Christians generally, Paul said that how did he say it again? That I fill up in my flesh what is lacking in the body I fill up in my flesh what is lacking in the suffering of Christ. Of course, we know that nothing is lacking in his suffering, but we're just giving ourselves for the sake of our Lord, for the sake of the love of neighbor, because we know that graces come forth from this. And if you look at all the saints, their sacrifices, that of Saint Jacinta, even our Lord's own at the wedding feast of Cana, more like there is a deep theology I learned or I heard from Fruit and Shin, and it makes sense. If you look at the life of Saint Jacinta too, how she offered up her life for the salvation of souls, you would know that embracing suffering is no small matter. Yes. Saint Jacinta, the visionary of Fatima, she died a very terrible death, one that nobody could imagine, even for an adult, let alone a child. She died without her parents in excruciating pains.
It's very terrible.
And she did that for the love of sinners.
For the salvation of souls.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think, maybe in a way you can say that there are two different types of, or shades or sides to suffering.
Exactly.
So there is the suffering that is not, that could be useless. Let's say if you're suffering, but not for God, not for Christ.
Exactly.
In the Beatitudes, the Lord said, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of the gospel and for the sake of me." So I think being persecuted for Christ is the suffering that is fruitful. But just suffering alone in itself
Something Fulton said would perfectly suit what you said. He said, the terrible news is not that people suffer, but it's what they lose when they suffer.
Okay.
The grace is for us, for both the person that is bearing the suffering, and also for every other person. Do you know, I love Christ so much. Like, yeah, I know he's God, but I love him so much.
As a human.
Yes, as a human, because he did not just say, let me go and redeem man, and he came to the world and redeemed man. No.
He lived with the people.
He didn't just come to take our nature, but he said, I have the bigger cross. You carry your small cross, you make it a bridge, so other people can climb on your cross and come to me. He made us co-redeemers, so to speak. We should not use that word, but I think that is the way I feel. Because in a very minute sense. Because he would tell us to pray for sinners.
Yeah.
Well, what if I don't pray for them? But why does he make us pray? Why does he make us to be like him? Because I feel like in our suffering, it's not only to purify us. That is the way I see it. I see like our suffering is also to make us like him, so we can suffer for sinners like him, in charity, in pure love. There is nothing seeing a person. I heard a story, a miracle that happened. I've forgotten his name, Dr. Lucerd, if I am correct. He converted at Lourdes, trying to write about a lady. But the wife suffered for him. The wife said, on the day I die, he was an atheist. On the day I die, you would become a Catholic and a Dominican priest. And it happened exactly.
So why was she then an atheist?
No.
Or she converted?
No. The woman married an atheist.
Oh, it's the husband that is atheist.
Yes.
Oh.
And from 1905 to 1911, she suffered terribly. And she had made a pledge to our Lord that give me suffering enough to possess my husband. And that was exactly how it happened. So I do not see suffering just for purifying. I see suffering as like we are becoming like Christ. Like we are becoming like Christ in exactly what he came to do for us.
It's like we are joining Christ.
Exactly. That is the way I see suffering. And I know it's hard. All these talks does not really make sense until you're in suffering. It's only someone who has been through suffering can say, oh, well, this is how it is. But something Pope Pius XI said on the canonization of Saint Bernadette, he said, not all of us can go to Lourdes. Obviously, we are here, and unless you have the money, but not all of us can go to Lourdes. But we, individually, we can make pilgrimage to Mary in our hearts. And for me, I can ask her to help me bear everything for the sake of Christ. And I think that's it. That's just the message.
Yeah, and I think to add to what you just said, you know, there's something that Bishop Fulton said. Okay, so Bishop Fulton said that he once said a prayer, a very dangerous prayer, that the Lord should send him someone who is maybe an atheist or an unbeliever generally, so that maybe in a way he could try to convert the person, let's say by prayers or by words or something. So I think, and then I think the very next day, an atheist came knocking on his door. And fortunately, the atheist later converted and became a Christian. So I think we could also maybe like imitate him, but then not like we should pray that, you know, atheist.
Well, for me personally, I think my prayer should be daily to suffer perfectly for our Lord. Because I noticed that there are some little times when I could just bear the suffering, like when I'm doing my programming and there's no network. I can actually endure and not nag about it. Just little sufferings, because yes, that's just to show that it's not just for the sake of the suffering. It's for living for Christ, bearing everything like he would, all the excesses, not necessarily to ask him. Because one thing is that even if those atheists don't come knocking on my door, if I cooperate with Christ, I believe that as much souls would be converted as not, like I cannot even imagine how many souls we converted just by cooperating with Christ. That's just my
living a holy life.
exactly. By offering every single thing up.
Okay, so I think that concludes the talk of today, the little presentation we had for you, our dear audience. So I think that's it. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for the lovely presentation.
Bye.
So we'll see you later. Ciao.
Bye.
We're done. No,
Bye.
we are done with
Please.
everything.
Please. Just close the scene with whatever you want.